The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network.
It's the path to Paris. Join Track Wrestling Shane Sparks as he talks to members of Team USA as they prepare for the 2017 World Wrestling Championships in Paris, France. Now, here's your host, Shane Sparks.
And welcome to Track Wrestling. This is the Path to Paris. I'm Shane Sparks. Less than 3 weeks away from the 2017 Senior World Championships. Looking forward to that out in Paris, France, August 21st through the 26th. And Track Wrestling has partnered with Titan Mercury Wrestling Club. A special promotional price of just $9.99. $9.99 gets you the live stream and the archive videos of the entire tournament. So you want to be a part of that? Go to trackwrestling.com to get your subscription, and I can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'll be there with Andy Hamilton. We'll be doing stories, interviews, previews, recaps, all that good stuff. Make sure you keep it on trackwrestling.com during the Senior World Championships. Well, we'll get right to it. Guest here today, two-time NCAA champion, 2015 World Champion, and 2016 Olympic champion. Of course, none other than Kyle Snyder. Kyle, it's always a real honor to have you on. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on, Shane. I appreciate it.
Kyle, during these interviews, it's always my approach. I always want to learn, if I can, 2 or 3 things that I didn't know coming in. And you're one of these guys at 21 years old. We could probably talk for hours about your experiences in this sport. I want to, of course, talk about the upcoming Senior World Championships. But if I could, I want to go back to your very early days in this sport. I'm always fascinated on how people fall in love with the sport and how they grow within the sport from a young age and how often you practice, how often you go to tournaments, different things like that. When you go back to your early days in the sport, when, Kyle, and how did you even get involved in wrestling? And do you have a memory or two from those first years in the sport that stand out?
Yeah, I started wrestling when I was 5 years old, so I was young, and I had an older brother, a younger brother, and I got a younger sister as well. But we would beat each other up, roughhouse, in the basement or living room or whatever. And my parents, my dad especially, was getting tired of us beating up all the furniture. And I was a pretty aggressive kid. So then they decided to put me in the wrestling room and played football as well. So since a very young age, I've been wrestling and kind of just stuck with it from then. I don't know if I loved it right away, but definitely grew into a love for the sport.
That was my next question, was did you like it right away? I know in talking with you over the years and those close to you, it's always Kyle loves to train, he loves the sport, just really embraces it. Did your dad wrestle, Kyle? I mean, was it wrestling part of the family, or was this something new to your family in general?
My grandfather wrestled, but no, my dad didn't wrestle. And my older brother wrestled for a year, but then he stopped and started playing basketball. So I was pretty much the first one in my family to wrestle. And I don't know, I can't even remember. I was so young when I started, I can't really even remember whether or not I liked it. My earliest memories are my pop-off is my grandpa just kind of bribing me with money or a milkshake if I was going to win the tournament. So I remember that, but I think it was later on, 7th or 8th grade is when I actually started liking going to practice and training and learning new technique, stuff like that.
Do you recall, Kyle, anything that your parents did, your coaches, that looking back on it as you've developed a love for the sport, that maybe helped cultivate a passion and a desire to have fun in the sport and have the success that you've had?
Well, I think my parents always took me to where the best room was, where the best partners were, where the best coaches were, and I liked being around those people and learning from them because we were pretty similar. Just it was easy to get along with them and have fun with them. So that was a big part of it, just being surrounded by good people. And they never like really pushed me to continue wrestling, I don't recall. So I think it was more of just I started to like it. First was probably I started to have success, and then I started to like it because of success. And then I started liking it more because I just enjoyed doing it. And then that's kind of what it is now. I like wrestling because it's fun for me to practice and to learn new moves and to challenge myself.
You get around the country. You're around wrestling 24/7 for the most part. It's your life. Are there things, Kyle, that you look at when you deal with the youth? Maybe it's parents, coaches. What are a couple of things, and not to be negative on this, but I'm going to ask it anyways. What are a couple of things that that really make you shake your head, that you can't believe people are trying to do to promote the sport, that you could not disagree with more?
Well, I think just for parenting, I think a lot of times, I mean, just hopefully I can become a parent, and the way that I would parent my child in a sport is I would never punish a kid with more working out. I think a lot of people do that. The coaches, they punish. You do something wrong, I punish you with an extra sprint. I think you can create a really strong culture and environment if running an extra sprint should be a benefit, it should be a positive thing. So I remember when I was young, if I would get in trouble, my dad would punish me. He would be like, go read a book or something like that, So now I don't really like reading. If you get punished for something, you usually don't like it. So when you punish a kid with doing more work, doing push-ups, doing more reps, typically they're going to start to dislike that. So I would never do that. And then also just only judging a person by what they can control. Never being upset with a result, but just effort. If the kid's trying his hardest, and it's hard to try your hardest, People always say just go out there and try your hardest, but that's a difficult thing to do because especially if you really like it and you care about it, then that's a very difficult thing to do. So just making sure that, if you were once an athlete, don't forget what it was like to be an athlete. Try to feel compassionate towards them and understand that they are trying to get the most out of themselves and to improve most of the time. That's, what they're doing. But from a promotional standpoint, I don't really know. I don't think anybody's really doing anything like too negative, like in a promotional standpoint. So I don't even know what people are doing promotionally to get the sport more recognition. I kind of just wrestle.
Kyle Snyder, Olympic champion, joining us here on TrackWrestling.com. Path to Paris. In high school, you win 3 state titles in dominant fashion. So here's where, reading Wikipedia, I read that you were taken down once in high school. Here's where I'm going to learn something about you that I had no idea. Number one, is that true? And if it is true, who's the guy that took you down? You remember it?
Oh, yeah, I remember it. Yep, it was actually my junior year, too. So my freshman year, I didn't get taken down. My sophomore year, I never got taken down. I actually never had an offensive point scored on me until my junior year in the finals of the Ironman. There was a kid named Alex Campbell. He wrestled for Cannon McMillan. And I was winning by like 13 points, and he took me down. Crazy.
That's awesome. Great piece of trivia. Yeah. It's like right there with some of my favorite, wrestling trivia. I think Nick Simmons once went 3 years without getting scored on at the Midlands. I think that's pretty crazy. And then you look at St. Ed's. I think they've had 34, 35 years with a Division I All-American. I mean, I think that stuff is staggering. And this one would fall right into that. Taken down one time in high school. Pretty impressive. That's unbelievable. So out of high school, you win a junior world title in 2013, well documented. You don't go to your senior year of high school. You move across country in Maryland, I should say. You go cross country to Colorado Springs and train at the OTC. When you look back on that, was that a tough decision? You know, what were some of the factors that really weighed into making that happen?
When I look back on it, it really didn't seem like too difficult of a decision. It's probably harder on my parents than it was for me, because at that point I was really pursuing becoming the best wrestler I can be, and I knew that I kind of exhausted all training options in Maryland. So when the opportunity came for me to come to the Olympic Training Center, I discussed it with my parents, discussed it with my high school coach. He told me it was the best thing for me. My dad, my mom thought it would be the best thing for me, and we trusted Coach Slay and Coach Zadek. They were really good guys. I knew that they would take care of me if I ever needed them to. And I mean, you only get so much time with your children. So for one of your kids being a senior in high school to leave you a year early, that probably stunk. But I'm not really the type of guy that gets too homesick, especially now because I've been traveling for so long. That I love home more than any place in the world. I love being home with my family, but I just know that this is what I have to do if I want to continue to grow and improve in this sport.
So Coach Zadek and Coach Slay, they were the first people that brought this possibility to your attention, those two guys?
Yes.
Okay. So then you get out there. You're, 17 years old?
Yep.
You're 17 years old. What was it like when you first got out there? I mean, who are you training with? How are you doing in the room? And then socially, I mean, who are you hanging out with? Talk about that adjustment and adapting to Colorado Springs, both as a wrestler and as a 17-year-old high school kid.
Yeah, when I first got out here, my dad came with me. We were staying in the dorms, and he slept on an air mattress on the floor. I slept in the bed, and it was a crazy time because it was my first time at the Olympic Training Center, but the senior world team camp was there for the last time before they headed off to the World Championships. So, everybody you could think of, Varner, Bergman, Lognev, Gavin, Burrows, Coleman Scott, Logan Sieber, Oliver, Dake. It was anybody that you could think of as a wrestler was there. I mean, the coaches, Kyle Sanderson, Tom Ryan, Lou Rosselli. So it was crazy. And I flew directly from the Junior World Championships back to the training center. I wanted to practice because there were all these great partners here. And then they all left to go to the World Championships. Camp ended. And that's when my dad left. And then I was kind of alone for 2 weeks before any of the other people moved in. So that was probably, if I got homesick, that was probably the only time I got homesick right there. That stretch where it was just me. Because the coaches were gone at the World Championships. And then they all came back. And then my roommate came, Garrett Ryan. There was a couple other residential athletes that came and were living there. Dustin Kilgore, John Reeder, Jack Jensen, Gio Martinez, Brooks Clemens, AJ Reese. So there was a lot of different guys here, some my age, some a little bit older, to hang out with.
You got any memories, Kyle, from some of those, practices with some of those hammers that you spoke about earlier? Any that really stand out, especially when you think about a guy like Varner, Olympic champion, and then you got to beat him ultimately to make a world team a couple years back.
Yeah, so that year, I think it was 2013. So that year, J.D. Bergman was on the team. And I remember it was the last day of camp, and Tyrell Fortune was supposed to wrestle Tervel in his match, but Tyrell got herpes. So I remember I wrestled J.D. Bergman in a match, and he tech-falled me. And then Tervel needed a partner, so I wrestled Tervel right after that, and he tech-falled me. And but I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like, these are the people that I need to wrestle with if I want to, get better. And I believe that if I came here, wrestled them enough, and listened to the coaches and worked as hard as I can, that eventually I would be the guy on the team, and I would be the guy representing the United States.
You're a two-time world medalist at the junior level, of course. Right now, the Junior World Championships are taking place in Finland. Freestyle is over. The United States team, phenomenal. They had 6 medalists, 3 champions. They win the team title for the first time since 1984. Did you get a chance to watch some of that freestyle?
Yeah, I did. I watched all of, the final rounds. I watched a lot of the final matches and the bronze medal matches.
What stood out, Kyle, for you in watching those matches?
Guys scored a lot of points. They held really good position. They wrestled, I think, just overall, they wrestled really well. They scored in bunches, take a guy down and turn him. Didn't look really timid. None of the guys really looked that timid when they were competing. Looked like they were just going out there and trying to score points and taking risks. So there's not anything new, any new takeaways, but just the guys that are representing our junior team are really good. So that's, when really good guys wrestle, most of the time they do have good results.
Who impressed you the most?
Who impressed me the most? I would say Gable Stevenson impressed me the most. Even though,
and you've trained with him, correct?
Yeah, I trained with him a bit last camp. Dayton Fix, he, crushed everybody. I don't know what it was, 52-1. And then Mark Hall,
something crazy.
He wrestled a couple guys that have had good results at the senior level and beat them. So that was, and he pinned this guy in the finals, so that was pretty cool. But I just think Gable, being a year young for the division, that's very impressive to win heavyweight.
And he teched everybody on top of it.
Everyone but the finals, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. When you train with him, Kyle, what are a couple of things that are so impressive about him at his age? And does he remind me of yourself a little bit? Or remind you of yourself, rather?
We're a little different. But I think the things that are the most impressive are his feet. He's got really fast feet for being a heavyweight. He's a good scrambler. So usually when they get to someone's legs, it's pretty easy to finish. But he's a good scrambler. He's got good hips. And he's good at go-behinds. He's got really fast go-behind. So those are really impressive qualities from him. And he's a good hand fighter for his age as well. I think a lot of younger guys struggle with hand fighting, but he's pretty good at it.
Path to Paris, talking with Kyle Snyder. Senior World Championships coming up August 21st in Paris, France. Track Wrestling is partnered with Titan Mercury Wrestling Club. Take advantage of this. $9.99 promotional price. Gets you the live stream of the entire tournament and the archive videos as well. Kyle, I want to talk about Ohio State just a little bit. For my own curiosity. You're a top recruit in the country coming out of high school. What is your first recollection of meeting Tom Ryan, and what was it about that relationship that really that was just so good?
The first time I came to Ohio State, I remember they had the whole team lined up, and I shook all their hands and got to meet the whole team, and then talk to Coach Ryan. But I think the thing that stood out to me the most, Coach Ryan compared to other coaches, is when we didn't really know each other that well, but he asked me to send him an email of my goals. So I sent him an email of my goals. All of them were wrestling related, what I wanted to do, accomplish, all that stuff. A couple little school goals as well, but mostly like 99% wrestling, And then Coach Ryan sent me back an email, and in all red, it had like, get to know Jesus Christ, get to know God, read the Bible, and stuff like that. And that's like a pretty big risk for a coach to send that to a recruit that he doesn't really know, but he was willing to do that. And it was different, way different than what I think any other coach would have replied to. So that's one of the things that sticks out to me most from meeting Coach Ryan. He's an amazing coach, very inspiring to wrestle underneath him, and he'll do anything to make sure that myself and teammates have the best training environment that they could possibly have.
I'm assuming, Kyle, you went on other visits?
I only went on unofficial, so I took unofficial to Penn State, Virginia Tech, Maryland, West Point, and Ohio State. So, and then
if you wouldn't have went to Ohio State, where would you have ended up?
Probably Virginia Tech.
Okay. With Coach Dresser?
Yep. Yeah, I think.
Okay.
They were the first school to recruit me. I had a good relationship with them, so I think that's where I would have ended up.
Tony Roby's listening to this right now, and he's going to be, hopefully not drive off the street.
No, Coach Roby's awesome. He's like one of the best coaches I've ever met. I love working.
Yeah, I was really happy for him that he got that job. I've known Tony for a number of years, got to know him pretty well, and I was really happy for him. And I think he's made some really good additions on the coaching staff, and I'm looking forward to watching what the Hokies have coming. It should be good. I'm pulling for him.
Yeah, same here.
Kyle, when you look at everything you've done, I mean, even Kyle Snyder has gotten beat. I mean, you've had some adversity. I think from a fan standpoint, just because the popularity of the NCAA championships, most fans remember the loss to Kevin Gatson when you were a freshman. What stings the most? Does that still sting, or is that like, lifetime ago? Or does it still sting, and are there different things about that match that will always, bother you a little bit?
I think that's definitely the loss that hurt the most out of any loss that I've had in my career. But no, it doesn't sting at all. Now, nothing really bothers me from it. I've improved a lot since then, and that's my primary focus. But I'm not like one of those. I think one of those guys who still says I think about losing my state title every day. Like 60 years old and still thinking about it. I think just got to get over it. Thankful that you even had the opportunity to compete, and just keep trying to improve. And wasn't my last match, so nah, it's no big deal.
Kyle, one of my favorite cliches or sayings in sports is, everybody wants to be the beast until it's time to do what beasts have to do. And I want to ask you, what are some of the biggest challenges for you that challenge your discipline? I know you love the sport. I know you have passion, but the reality is 365 days a year, I can't imagine you're absolutely like a rabid dog dying to get to practice. What are some things that Kyle Snyder has to struggle with in keeping his discipline and things like that? What are some of the things that challenge you the most in that area?
I think the things that challenge me most are mentally, just the way that I want to value, the things I want to value, and the way that I want to think about the sport. I think that's really where my biggest challenges are, just trying to wrestle freely and put 100% of myself out on the mat and not protect anything while I'm out there competing. That's my biggest struggle, because sometimes I have a tendency to protect way too early in a match when I should still continue to attack. But with the working out, I know it seems crazy, but I really do. I love working out. I mean, even on vacation, I work out. So waking up to work out, waking up to practice, that's no big deal. I probably work out too much. So I could take that. That would probably be a thing. Take it down a little bit from what I do right now, but that's pretty difficult for me to do.
Anything else that you have to battle from time to time?
I mean, not in regards to sport, not really, because I mean, people struggle with things in life. People have different temptations in life, but I think with wrestling, I think really I don't struggle that much with it because I do it because I like doing it. I don't do it so I can make more money. I don't do it so I can have more people like me. I don't do it because my family wants me to do it or my coaches want me to do it. I just do it because it's what I like to do. Have a love for it in my heart. I want to do it for a really long time, and I'm motivated for that reason. And I think that limits a lot of the struggles that you could have with the sport.
You inspire so many people. You're one of the faces, if not the face, of USA Wrestling, one of the top wrestlers recognized around the world. You inspire so many. Who inspires you, Kyle? I mean, who are people that get you fired up, that you really admire and respect, that motivate you to want to be the best you can be on and off the wrestling mat?
My dad, he inspires me. Tervel Delagnev inspires me. Kyle Sanderson inspires me. John Smith, Kadisov from Russia, he inspires me with his technique. I'm pretty easily inspired, so when I watch something, I get pretty fired up about it. So just sometimes even just watching practice and seeing how hard people are training, that's inspiring. Burroughs, inspiring. So there's a lot of different people.
One of the biggest X factors in sports is pressure, and I'm fascinated by it, Kyle. I mean, I think you can sit and break down sports, and no matter what sport it is, you can bring in facts and figures and stats and everything else. But at the end of the day, the X factor is how is somebody going to respond when they're in the pressure cooker. And you're one of these guys that seems to really embrace it. And like I said, to me, if I could be inside of your head for those couple of minutes before you take, the mat on the biggest stages, I would love to do it. Put us inside your head a little bit, between your ears. What are the thoughts, Kyle, in your mind in preparation for these competitions? And at least from your perspective, what is it about pressure that you seem to really embrace and overcome and thrive?
There was a time for a while, early in my college career, where I didn't really handle it that well. Just because I didn't know how to, I was always told to wrestle as hard as I can, but when you care about something a lot and tendency is to protect what you care about, then it's difficult to just open up and wrestle freely and be excited for challengers. Rather people probably, when you're trying to protect something, you don't want to wrestle someone good. You want to wrestle someone you can beat. But now that's kind of changed with just the shift in what I value. Instead of valuing accolades, gold medals, stuff like that, more so focus on just doing the sport because I love it. Want to learn new technique. I want to take risks. I want to try and score as many points as I can. Fight my defense as hard as I possibly can. And when I think about those things, and those are the things I think about before a match too, I just tell myself to take risks, move your feet, move your hands, shoot as much as you possibly can, get in the wrestling positions. I don't want to limit wrestling positions. I want to get into as many as I possibly can because I feel like I'm a good enough wrestler to where if I'm in positions and I wrestle through them, most of the time I'll win that position battle. So those are the thoughts that I have before I compete. Right before the mat, it's pretty simple. Just move my feet, try and score as many points as I can, fight as hard as I possibly can in every position. I really try to not think about winning or losing at all.
Interesting. Jordan Burroughs, a couple of times I've heard him recently say, I'm the old guy on this team. This is Kyle Snyder's team. Your thoughts on that, Kyle, and what is most important for you in being a great leader with this team?
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool that Jordan said that. But with a group of guys that we have, 7 other guys in the team right now, there's not much leading that needs to be done from any of us, I don't think. Everybody's pretty self-sufficient here from top to bottom. And, I try my best to be positive and be lighthearted and come to practice with a good attitude and work as hard as I possibly can, but it's not like I need to remind these guys to work harder when they're in the room or to work on the things they need to improve on. They want to do it for themselves. So with a group like this, world team, senior level world team, it's really not much leading, more so just trying to do what you can do to make yourself a better wrestler, and if someone needs help them. But yeah, that's it. It's pretty easy.
Let me ask you this, Kyle. With Bill Zadek as the head coach, correct me if I'm wrong, you had Coach Burnett last year. Did you have Zeke back I'm trying to think back to 2015, or was he gone already?
He was there when I was a resident here.
Okay. So my question is, with Bill Zadek, how are things different with him? Obviously, you talked about it earlier. You got a real good relationship with him. What's it been like with the transition of him now being the head coach?
It's been a smooth transition. I think all of us respect Coach Zadek, know how much knowledge he has, not only in wrestling but training and preparing for an event. So it's been very smooth. He's done a great job. His technique is really specific to the positions that all of us can get better in, and it's going to make a big difference when we go out there and compete. So he's an amazing coach, one of the best coaches in the United States for sure.
World Championships coming up. As a wrestling fan, Kyle, and I think I speak for many of us around the world, obviously the elephant in the room is Sajalyev of Russia, the Russian tank. With the seating the way it is, you guys might meet, early. So that's kind of interesting. Do you think about him a lot or not really?
Not really. No. I think more about myself and ways I can improve. Sometimes think about it. It makes me excited to go out there and compete against them. And whether it be the first round or the finals, anywhere in between, I'm going to be excited for that match. He's reigning 3-time world champion, a very good wrestler. He brings a lot of good stuff to the table, and I'll be excited and prepared to challenge myself against him, and we'll just see who the best wrestler is. But I think it's probably the biggest matchup that could possibly happen at any weight class in the World Championships this year.
I know I'm licking my chops. I hope we see it. I hope we see it on that final day. As a student of the sport, Kyle, and you understand obviously how tough it is. When you watch Sajalyev, what impresses you most about him?
The things that impress me the most are his gut wrench offense is good. He looks pretty strong. at 86 and even 97 kilo. He looks pretty strong. He stays in good position. He's good with an underhook on your right side. He's a pretty good finisher. So, I mean, to be the best wrestler in the world for 3 consecutive years, you have to be doing a lot of things right. He does do a lot of things right. So just from watching him throughout the years, those are things that I've seen him do well. But I think I match up really well with him. I think that I do things that are going to disrupt his game, and I'll be able to execute attacks.
Where do you think that match is decided? In what area?
On our feet. I think it's going to be decided on our feet. I don't think I mean, he's got a really good gut wrench, but personally, I don't think he's going to be able to gut wrench me. That's not really the thing that I'm fear the most from him. I think that me just moving my hands a lot, trying to score points, taking risks, getting to his legs, and cutting the corner fast, finishing well. That's where it'll be decided. And I'm sure we'll both have opportunities, and it's just going to be whoever can get the most out of themselves and wrestle the best in the positions we get in.
Have you ever had any interaction with him at all?
Nope, no interaction.
Well, I'm hoping you have one that night because I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it. But as we know, one match at a time, as they say, it is so true. Kyle, want to do some rapid-fire questions with you if I could here. And, again, really appreciate you taking the time tonight. Favorite musical artist or band?
Favorite musical artist or band? Right now, Air Church.
What is your favorite song?
Shoot, man, these are difficult to rapid fire. There's a lot of good songs. I'll say Round Here Buzz by Air Church.
Okay. What do you drive?
I drive a Toyota Camry.
Okay. Who is your best friend in wrestling? I know you got a lot of friends, but if you had to pick one, I'm going to really put you on the spot. If you had to pick one, who's your best friend in this sport?
Well, my brother wrestles at Ohio State, so I would have to say my brother. But outside of him, David Taylor.
If you could go back and do one thing, what is one thing, Kyle? I know everything's worked out pretty well for you, of course, but if you could go back and do one thing different, it doesn't even have to be in wrestling necessarily. What's one thing, if you could have one do-over in your life, what's one thing you would do over?
Since we talked about the NCAA finals when I was a freshman, I would do over that match.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. What do you do, Kyle, to get away from wrestling?
I'm pretty good at getting away from wrestling. I mean, once I'm done practice, usually just hang out with my friends, play card games, video games, watch TV or something like that, or any other form of competition, volleyball, stuff like that. But I'm pretty good at being focused in the room and then outside of it, other things.
Who's your favorite sports team and player?
Washington Redskins, favorite sports team, no doubt about that. And favorite player, LeBron James.
Okay. Who's somebody, Kyle, that who's been the most famous person you've met with your wrestling celebrity and the accomplishments that you've had in wrestling? Who's the most famous person you've gotten to meet?
Floyd Mayweather, probably the famous athlete that I've met, and then we met President Obama for just like a brief second. So
okay,
that was cool. Yeah.
I ask this question to everybody. 3 people that you get to take on a cross country trip. You're going from Maryland driving out to California, going cross-country. 3 people you're taking with you on that trip, dead or alive. Any 3. Who you taking?
I'm taking Jesus. I'm taking C.S. Lewis. And I'm taking Mark Wahlberg.
Oh, there you go. What is the most romantic thing, Kyle, you have done for your girlfriend in the last 6 months? What kind of game do you have? We're going to find out right now.
Most romantic thing? Well, we went to Hawaii a couple months ago, and I think that being in Hawaii is romantic. So that whole deal, that whole trip.
Nice. What is your biggest pet peeve? I mean, what is the one thing that you just can't take?
Hypocrisy. Even though sometimes I'm guilty of it, but I can't take it.
Last question for you. There's $1 million on the table. Somebody's giving me $1 million. They're giving me $1 million. And they're asking me to bet. They're asking me to bet how much of that $1 million I want to bet that Kyle Snyder will someday be in MMA. How much money should I bet on that?
Oh, I would bet pretty low. I don't know. 10,000. Not very much.
Really? So okay. So that is not.
I don't want you to bet all your money on me.
Is that something? I know that was swirling around for a little bit. Is that something you still think about, or do you not really think about that? Could you see yourself in MMA sometime?
Sometimes when I watch a fight, I can, but I know that I'm going to be wrestling for a long time, and I went to a couple UFC events, and they got me all jacked up, and I'm pretty in the moment type of guy. So they were really cool when I was there, but I'm not sure right now. Kind of don't think as much about it anymore.
Well, Kyle, it's been a lot of fun. It always is. Appreciate the time once again. Really excited to follow you and the senior team in Paris, France, and looking forward to seeing you in Paris. And best of luck to you. Should be a lot of fun.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
This show is part of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MattTalkOnline.com.